Welcome back to Making History in KSP 1.4, the expansion, and we're taking off with another explorer. This is the same craft we have last episode, but we have a new mission. Transmit or recover scientific data from the surface of the moon. Now, we've only done an orbiter so far, so having something that lands on the surface, well, we haven't really got a lander as such. So we may have to be, well, we made it with stuff being destroyed, but I thought we'd give it a try anyway. It's much easier to do this on Minmus, but it's giving us moon emissions, so I can't really do much about that for this particular moment. However, I'm going to go and get us up towards orbit. We're going to be heading this way, and it's going to take us a little while, so let's skip forward until we get an orbit, maybe even out towards the moon. And here we are on the way out to the moon. We will have an encounter and that will come back into an orbit around Kerbin. However, we do want to alter that. So I think if I just highlight that, let's just spin ourselves to prograde and see if we can get a fair bit closer, I think. I want to get a closer in orbit into the moon than that. So we can do this. Just a little bit of thrust, not much at all needed this halfway around here. And we'll see where this takes us relative to the moon. We are still on the other side of the moon. Let's get on this side. So, yep, there it is. It's crossing over. Our periapsis is now going to be 300k. Let's actually leave it around 280. That will do just fine. And we can then warp forwards. And we want to make sure we've got a connection with Kerbin, of course. So we need to make sure we land either on the side of the moon facing Kerbin, or via this satellite, the Unmunar Express that we had up here. However, when you get close enough to land, that tends to have problems regardless, because you get blocked by hills or by the terrain. So it's probably best that we keep this roughly equal. Recenter on the node again. There we go. Whoops, back a little bit. Yep, there we go. And let's just head forward. In fact, we can just warp to here. And we should maintain connection, I think. Oh, it's heading that way. We've got to be careful. There's another place for us to connect with. That's no problem. So entering orbit shouldn't be an issue. It's normally just the landing that's going to be an issue. And of course, there's much faster landing than on Minmus. So let's head in. It's apparently only 8 seconds burn, which isn't very long at all. So 1 minute. And let's get under a minute. It doesn't much matter at this point where we do this. So let's just burn, because our orbit really doesn't concern us all that much. Bring ourselves in. And that will do. All right, so now we're in equatorial orbit around the moon. Daylight side is that side, of course. However, the side facing Kerbin is sort of towards us, as you know, towards this camera side now. So if we spin this around, see the idea. What we probably want to do is land around about here, where we can still see Kerbin, but also our solar panels won't cut out. All right, so we need to move around to around about here anyway. So let's warp around. And then if we have any problems with electric charge, that should recharge anyway. All right, and then I'm going to set up a maneuver node for us to land. Okay, so this sort of seems okay. We'll land around about here, but the terrain will keep on moving, of course, so we'll probably end up here. We'll have moved to here by the time we land. So, you know, this is about as as easy as it gets, I guess, for the moon. Much easier on Minmus. So let's point ourselves at the node again. And we're going to warp to, let's say, here. And we may need to repoint ourselves. But again, it's only a 7-second burn. If we have a look at Kerbal Engineer, we've got 1,000 left in the tank. So in we come. And I want to be more exact with this one. I just want to get towards that node. All right, so 30 seconds. Let's just speed up a little bit. We need 3.5, really. So 10 seconds. And this point it's accurate enough, so we can just burn. And from this point, we're on a collision course. That will do. 0.5 meters per second. Yeah, it's close enough. All right, and now we're going to warp in towards the moon's surface. Now, at this point, there's not really much we can do except hope we get this right, because, yeah, I mean, we've got a direct connection to the planet, and if we go back into our regular view, you'll see the lunar surface coming up. We're going to be going that way, aren't we? So what we want to do at this point is switch to surface at some point. Doesn't matter which where. And this is going to be the only thing that we need to concentrate on. SAS being on is the other one. We're out of sort of sight of the sun a little bit, but I need to point us this way regardless. So we're going to let this increase, and I want to watch our altimeter count down. And we're going to be getting fairly close. So what we can do, if we want to go straight down, and we're confident enough that we'll get continued connection to kerbal, we can push this just by thrusting behind it, and we're going to push it towards that little dot. When it hits the dot, we'll be going straight down, and then you sort of have to try and keep it on that dot as you try and decelerate. The most efficient way to do this is via suicide burn. I just don't really have a great deal of confidence this is going to work anyway, but I thought I'd try it. Why not? It's the kerbal way. So we're increasing our speed. I'm going to let us go in a little bit more though. And if you wait too long, then you've got issues. You'll just smack into the ground. You won't be able to decelerate fast enough. So I'm going to head to I don't know, 600 meters per second ish. All right, and now I think I'm going to be close enough that I can start decelerating. So I'll start burning. I've got to keep an eye on our remaining fuel, of course. But you'll see that has actually reduced my speed quite a large amount. And we're going to push that towards this center. And we're under 200 meters per second. We'll continue decelerating, of course. And that's used up half my fuel. So that's one of the reasons why it's more efficient to wait till the last minute. But there's not a great deal I can do at this point. Because we've slowed down, the gravity will pull us straight down. So that marker will keep moving across towards the dot. And then we've got to see how well we do. So if we want to just decelerate entirely, we can put a marker on the dot and then use up fuel. And now I think Flight Engineer has a thing that gives you, sort of time until impact somewhere, but I don't see it on my screen at the moment. So yeah, not much I can do. Under 15 kilometers now, but I don't use up any more fuel. I need to use up that fuel on decelerating us towards the surface, or at least trying to. Okay, we're at 9 kilometers. I'm just going to keep pushing this in towards the center. Slow us down a little bit. But our fuel is rapidly draining now, and I daren't do too much more, otherwise we'll just smack into the ground and there's nothing we can do about it. But I do want to center that marker somewhat. I don't want to be going sideways when we get to the ground. 160, I need to leave that alone now. And then I'll put it over the marker at 4 kilometers, but this ground is higher than 4 kilometers. I'm almost sure of it. So we're going to leave ourselves a little bit, and then I'm going to start decelerating us now. And got to be careful I don't run out of fuel. We're at 74 meters per second. That's going to continue to increase, unfortunately. And there's not a great deal I can do about it, other than to use our fuel on the last little bit and try and survive landing. Are we out of fuel? Oh no. Oh, no. No, I didn't want to do that. We've got 7 meters per second of fuel left. Okay, this is not the surface. We are just above the surface, and I want to sort of just... Oh no, we're out of fuel. Oh no. Oh no. Will it survive? It survived! Mystery goo. Mystery goo. Transmit. Yes, I know. Well, can we transmit? Yes, we can. We've got the mission done. So we've got a Munar. We've got a Munar landing. Can we do any other experiments on here? I don't think we can. This thing is awful. It's the first unmanned probe. It's the sort of, yeah, the first Probodobadine Octo is the sort of first unmanned really good probe. And even so, it's terrible until we get to the Octo 2 or the Hex. However, we did get to the surface of the moon. So, yeah, that's worth a round of applause. Back at the Space Center, we're ready for the next mission, and we're now getting a bunch of these ones. Rescue various astronauts from the orbit of Kerbin, and we will gain those as astronauts if we go and rescue them. So one's in low Kerbin, well, in fact, are they all in low Kerbin orbit? They are, and they give us 46,000, I guess, for saving them. And because we can now go EVA, then as soon as we get close enough to them, we can get them to leave their current craft, I hope. Yes, I really do hope that, because we don't have a docking port yet, I don't think. And we can get them back into one of our ships. The slight problem with that, and the sort of traditional approach before making history, was to stack two of our... Let's just get rid of that for a second. Was to be to stack two of these. So you'd do something like this, and then you would get one kerbal in one, and then there'd be a space for the other kerbal in the other one. However, we do, whoops, don't save. We do now have this P re-entry module, and I just want to purchase that anyway. So I want to see what size these two are to each other. Are they the same size? Maybe slightly bigger. So the important thing here is that the P re-entry module is actually a two-seater. Remember, of course, that we don't have any kind of reaction wheels built in. So if we're going to take this, we need to have a reaction wheel somewhere on the craft that stays with it at least until it gets back to orbit. Now, it does have a blazer, so we shouldn't have any need to deal with that. We are going to need a parachute, of course. Parachute, where are you? In here. So Mark 16. Well, I really hope that works. It certainly seems to fit. We could go radial drogue shoots as well, but that's fine. And then let's just open up. In fact, cancel that for a second. Let me just call this Rescue. Rescuer 1. And then let's look for something to get it into low Kerbin orbit, I should say. So maybe our typical Explorer, if we merge them. Oh, no, not the Explorer. My mistake. We want the Munar Express, don't we? Merge. Alright, so if I just put that... I need to put it somewhere. It needs to attach some... Can it attach to here? I don't have any nodes to attach it by. That's annoying. Do I have a sub-assembly saved? Sub-assemblies... No. Okay. Wonderful. Let me rearrange this. Okay, so after a quick rearrange, a couple of kick motors to get us off the pad, because we're pretty slow with this length of main for stage. Some winglets just to control our attitude a little bit more while we're on the way up, and then we've got a two-man vessel here at the top with an LV909, some solar panels and batteries and usual bits and pieces, and that inline reaction wheel. So let's just head out here, and I hope my staging's right. I didn't look at that. We'll look at it on the launch pad. Let me just double check in the tracking station. Where are you? So yeah, you're right above right now, so we need to be leaving, and we want to come in underneath Nielden's orbit. Let's just choose the Rescuer 1, get rid of Bill, and launch. We want to come in underneath that orbit, so we're catching up to it, because it's going to be ahead of us by the time we get up there anyway. So we shall do that. If I go above it, however, it's not too much of an issue. We just have to use a bit of Delta V to come back down. We don't want to stay above it because we'll be going slower than it relative to it in the orbit. So let's just look at that. Yeah, everything is set. You're set, so are you. Yep, so away we go. SAS on. And up we go. Of course, these are not going to last very long at all. 23 seconds or so. And we can start tipping over. Hard to while these are firing at the rate, at the rate they're firing. So we may be going... Oh, gotta be a bit careful. Maybe going too high. Wow. Let's drop those. And we can probably, you know, bring back our throttle a little bit, I think, after that one. And let's check out where we are relative to Nielden. So Nielden's over there ahead of us. And we've got an APO of 11k, so we need to steer a little bit this way, a little bit over, and then we can increase our throttle. So I'm going to keep catching up, and then hopefully you'll join me once I'm higher up in our orbit. Okay, so here is our APO at 7,500, so you see just how little room we have between that and the orbital track of Nielden. So maybe it would be better to go above it and then get a, wait for it to go around, then be behind the Space Center so it will catch up to us. That'll certainly make it easier. However, we've started this way around, so we may as well look to finish that. So if I just realign myself a little bit, and we're going to watch for this APO. We're getting a little bit closer to it, I think. We want to make sure that it doesn't go too high. But LV909 really isn't great at maintaining altitude, so I've got to be quite careful here. Coming into the flat section, so let me just establish orbit. And here we are in orbit, not quite as low as I'd like, but of course we didn't really have much room anyway. Nielden is orbiting at 79,000, we're at 74. So if we just pop out to map view again, sorry, and have a look. See the other side of my orbit, 72 by 74. So we're really quite close to the top of the atmosphere. And then I guess we can now target Nielden. Okay, so we should then be able to make various maneuvers to get an encounter with Nielden's craft. Now, in addition to just the height, we've also got slight difference in inclination. You'll see right there. So if we go to one of the nodes, let's just say the ascending node. Where are you? The ascending node's right there. We can create a maneuver. And we can then realign ourselves with, we want the anti-node, don't we? Yeah, anti-node, ascending node. And I need somewhere where I can see that easily, the difference between them. It's not very much difference there. Let me just move this window out of the way. And in fact, we should be able to see from the ascending node. That should tell us the difference. 0.1. Yeah, and they'll flip around as soon as it gets to 0. So that's the first one we can make, which will make our eventual encounter a little bit closer with Nielden. So let's pop ourselves right around there. And we only need a 1 second burn. But to be honest, we're not even going for a full burn. We'll just use a little bit of throttle to bring us up to the right place. So let's just get towards this. So 23 seconds. We can probably start it now because we're not going to be using full burn. There we are. And now we can adjust this around. And that should be close enough. Okay, so we're now on the same inclination. We now need to make a maneuver somewhere, once we're close enough, to be able to close these two intersections towards each other. And when they get really close to each other, we'll get an actual encounter, or we'll get really close. So I think to do that, where would be the best place to do this? There's no real good place because we're really quite close. So that's the lowest part of our orbit. So why don't we see if we can add a maneuver here? And we may have to go around several rotations, but if we just do a little bit of maneuvering our prograde and retrograde. What we don't want to do is go beneath 70, of course. So let's just keep doing that. And that's going to flip around quite naturally. Now, that's going to speed us up. However, what we could also do, if we wanted to, is change this and then increase the number of orbits. So as you'll see, they get closer if we wait a few orbits, because we're lower than Nielden is right now. So that will get us to intersection, how relative speed, separation 24.6 kilometers and relative speed of 83 meters per second. So what if we go one more orbit? Okay, one more orbit gets us a little bit closer, but relative speed. So back now, we want to go back to these and see if we can fine tune that to get ourselves an encounter. So 14.7, and again, we're still got to keep an eye on these. 71. Okay, that's fine. Separation. No, you see, now we're coming in right to the atmosphere, and this is the problem. Separation. So I think what we may have to do is go around again, or go back to something like that. And then if we go prograde again, we'll get closer by going that way. So 21, 20, 21. Okay, so maybe we just do that particular maneuver, get closer, and then we'll do a second maneuver or something along those lines. We've got to wait 4 hours to do this, however. And where will it put our... Yeah, that will still be fine on that side. So we still should be okay as far as everything else is concerned. So let's put ourselves on the maneuver node. And let's just see how much of a problem it is to warp, because we're going to have a limit to how much we can warp in this way. Okay. So how much can we warp, or how fast can we warp? Nope, we can't go higher than 50. Okay, so I'm going to skip forward so you don't have to watch this happen. And in fact, what I'm going to do, actually, I'm just going to cancel that, and I'm just going to bring down our Apo. We're at 72 now. I'm going to wait till we'll come around to the Peri, and I'll bring us down to an Apo so we catch up faster to Nielden. So, and we want to go prograde. In fact, we can go prograde retrograde. Whoops, wrong direction. Spin ourselves over, and we want to reduce this. We're at 72 both ways now, and there we see our intersection maneuver. So let's take a look if we had a maneuver here again, and let's just go to hold instead of anything else. Change this maneuver, and how close do we get in one orbit? 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to be pretty close. And 6. Oops. 6? How close are you? 13 kilometers. Pretty close. What we could also do, the other way of tailoring this, is just by changing where we start this maneuver, I guess. That's going to change things a little bit, because that changes the orbit. What can we get closer here? Yeah, but then are we hitting the atmosphere? Nearly. Yeah, I think we'll have to do more than one maneuver. That's fine. I'm going to wait until we catch up a little bit, and I'll bring you back once we're close enough to be able to get an intersection. So here's a more ideal intersection. We've got intersect number 1, separation of 4.2 kilometers at a relative speed of 7.5 meters per second, which is really quite easy to deal with. So that's going to be a nice thing to go for. I'm going to have to wait for 1 hour and 23 minutes, which of course chasing each other and getting ever slower. That'll produce an apoapsis of 74k by 76, and that is still quite safely above the atmosphere. So let's head on to the maneuver. So here they are coming around for the maneuver, or at least here's our craft. They're getting quite close to each other already. So here comes our maneuver node, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3, 2, and let's just exit out early and get a line for it. It says estimated burn of 0 because it's 1.7 meters per second. It's almost nothing. Almost a RCS would be better here, but we don't have that yet. So let's point at that maneuver node. And let's get closer again. So we want to get pretty much down to a few seconds remaining. And a minute. 40 seconds, 30 seconds, 20 seconds. So let's just go back into real time. Readjust for that maneuver node, which is nearly there. Okay. And let's zoom in and we'll see we're still a ways away from our target, but this should change things. So let's get 8 seconds. And yeah, so it's going to be quite quick. There we go, 0.00. So our intersection is going to be there. It's 4.3 kilometers at 8 meters per second. That's its final in 25 minutes from now. So I'm going to accelerate us forward to then. So our two craft are almost next to each other now. So we can switch out of map view for a second. And then we can look. Let's turn on the lights so you can see. Yeah, I like the lights. So we can spin around. And point, whoops, to spin around too much. Point at our target. Or rather, we can point at this marker and we want to push them towards each other. So if I just do this, I should be able to pull our marker towards the purple one. And stop. Okay. And now, let's see what that is. So intersection of 0.9 kilometers. We can get closer to that. We just have to keep burning in the same direction. If I just right click there, you'll see. So in it comes 0.7, 0.6. We want to get closer than that. Ideally, we want... Let's keep pulling things this way. 0.4. 0.3. 0.3 will do just fine. Our velocity to the target is 50, so that's quite high. So instead, what we're going to do is go to the retro and get ready to brake. So there we are, 3.3. Ready to brake, 3, 2, going to 2 kilometers and coming down to 1 kilometer. All right, so I'm going to just start decelerating relative to our target, that is. And bring us in, I don't know, 20 meters per second would be fine. So let's just increase that for a second. And there we go. We keep doing that. 10. So now you can see it's quite comfortably going to go this away. So we can continue to keep decelerating relative to it. And we should come to a halt. It's going to flip our markers over, but there's not much we can do about that. So it's just about to flip because we've come to a halt relative to it. It's only a few hundred meters away. Can I do anything with it yet? No. So let's just flip around and get pointed at that target. Yep, there we go. We're starting to move towards it now. And now we just want to fine tune things. Let's just pull it this way. And back around to our retro, where we can bring it to a halt again once we're happy that it's, you know, as close as it can get. Well, within 100 meters or so will be just fine. So 300 meters coming up. And let's just slow ourselves down a little bit. And we're ready for, well, not docking. We can't dock just yet, unfortunately. What we can do is get a great deal closer. Yeah, we still can't do anything with it. So I'm going to get much closer and, you know, we'll come back on camera. And in we come, we're just realigned. So I'm just going to decelerate us again. 50 meters. And we've stopped, so I need to just flip over again. I just want to get a little bit closer than that, just for scenic purposes more than anything else. 2 meters a second relative, flip over. And we should come in, slide in, just alongside our target. I really, really hope our target can get out of that. Yeah. Can we? Let's see. Okay, so square bracket. Yeah, so can you leave, however? You can EVA. Good. Uh-oh. So we can definitely leave. Let's turn on his RCS and let's point towards our craft. Whoop, we need a slight touches on the suit RCS. That's going to go away now. Not much I can do about it. Or not much I want to do about it, I should say. And we're outside, so we may as well get an EVA report. And we can keep that with us. And now we just want to get closer to the front end of this without bumping into it, which is the usual problem with this thing. All right, so which side is the hatch? That's the usual game I play with this new capsule. No easy way to tell other than get really close and then try and board. So let's see if it's this side. Is that the side that we need to get in? Nope. Okay, so we're going up over the top, I guess, then. Forward and in the other side. So sensitive when you're this close. Often, this is one of the reasons why docking ports are great, but we don't have the docking port yet. Okay, so as the hatch is the one with the LEDs on it, maybe? Let's give this a go. And we got Kerbal there in the background. Whoa. Whoa. Yeah, so that is the right place. Can we press B to board? B, F, grab, B, board. Now there's two of them. We've rescued, or at least on the first part, saved Nield and Kerbal. We've got enough fuel, so it doesn't much matter what we do now as far as landing. And we can get into the atmosphere really, really easily. So here's back to our orbital stuff. All we need to do is point retrograde. And now we can deorbit. So as you might expect, let's just watch our orbit. That's going to flip around. Perry's going to come in. Let's bring it all the way down. We're not going to wait that long. We'll just bring it down into the atmosphere on the daytime side. We have a blater apparently, so we'll see how well that does. It's going to come in over the land, which of course is what we want. And now, can we detach? Okay, so now we're coming in. That's still lit. That's still okay. And we'll see just how well this bottom heavy sort of capsule does as it comes into the atmosphere. Do we have any... Oh, we have some electric charge, but it's not like this thing has any kind of... Oh no, wait, we can maneuver in this one. Interesting. We couldn't do that in the other one. The first one, that is. So unless that's a fix with... That could be a fix with the most recent game. This is 1.4.2 now. So we're going to fast forward time, as we normally would. And start heading into the atmosphere. I'll just reorient us a little bit with what remains of our electric charge. And keep on heading in. We're now into the atmosphere. So at this point, we will fly or fry. One of the two. 65. 64. And I'm sure this will be fine. I will, of course, show you if it isn't. Yeah, so fast forwarding back to the Space Center, hopefully. And yeah, it does have control because I remembered I put an actual inline reaction wheel. So everything is fine. At least I have some control over it now, which makes this all easier. However, of course, even without SAS on, it's locked to that retrograde quite nicely. So it's nicely bottom heavy, if you like, or stable. And we're coming in 27, 26, nicely decelerating. And we're through the hot part of the descent. And there is our parachute that's ready to essentially be deployed. And are we close? No, we're not close to anywhere. So, long flight down and back to the Space Center. And just because we've landed in the giant bowling ball, and we may as well pick up a crew report, hadn't we? Transmit that back. And Jeb perhaps should go outside. Oh, he may tip the ball over, hopefully not. Grab that information, keep it, and board. All right, now back to the Space Center to recover the vessel. And from that, we got EVA report from space above Kerbin's water, so we should go and do EVA reports science from various biomes, I think. It's quite normal to do that above the moon and above Kerbin to get lots of science. Recovery of a vessel, EVA report and crew report. So 29 science, we're up to 444,000 funds. And of course, we have Neil Kerman, an entirely new, well, in this case, engineer. And he has level 1 because he's been into orbit, or he was already in orbit. Either way, he has level 1. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. We've got a Munar lander and the rescue of one of our little kerbals from orbit, all in the same episode. Do we have enough? No, that's 90. So I think between the episodes, I'm going to send up a kerbal, and they're going to do lots of EVA. They're going to just grab every biome. So probably going to go polar and grab the biomes that way, and they're just going to sit on the outside of the craft and happily take EVA reports from around the planet. Or we're going to do the same around the moon, one of the two, and we'll be able to get to probably fuel systems is the next one I want. Is that the one I actually need? I think it is, actually. The other one we can go for is more for landing stuff, and that's probably more for Minmus, which is Mark 1 lander can and RCS thruster block, and then Mark 2 command pod. So that's the twin-seater of the first pod that you get, that is the traditional old pod from previous to the Making History expansion. And we also get the 3-man pomegranate re-entry module. All right, so we'll see you next time, hopefully. Feel free to like, subscribe, and share if you like this episode. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. And as always, thanks for watching.